Picture this. You just had a bad day at your crappy 9-to-5 job and need to find a way to unwind. You could crack open a few cold ones and risk the potential hangover the next morning, or you can try one of the best combinations that I know of. We're talking the peanut butter and jelly. No, the rum and coke. Hell, the KFC/Taco Bell saloon. We're talking marijuana and video games, a combination that is no right pairing so well. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of video games out there that don't pair well with weed. That's why today I've assembled a team of scientists and chemical engineers to inform you about what are the best video games to pair with the devil's lettuce.
Maybe when your mother's finished mourning your father, I'll keep her in black on your behalf.
Starting things off with Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that came out almost more than 5 years ago and is still one of the best looking open world games to date. Take a spliff of some of that sweet Mary Jane and you can get lost in its open world for days. There is just an insane amount of detail that not only went into the environments that you can explore, but even into the NPCs. I remember being blown away by the fact that you could have minor interactions with every prospector you come across. These random people even have schedules planned out for every in-game day, which really adds to that sense of immersion that not many open world games can replicate nowadays. And while I know a lot of people weren't super happy with the slow looting system that the game had, I say to you people, take it easy, man. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the slow pace this game sets. Doing mundane things like hunting and cooking adds to the overall immersion. At the end of the day, the major appeal of Red Dead Redemption 2 is getting that role-playing aspect of you wandering the American frontier and feeling like you're a big bad cowpoke. And don't get me wrong, I can totally see the main story missions not being everyone's cup of tea when you're just trying to mellow out, especially because some of those story missions can get extremely depressing. But I think what's great about this game is you can easily ignore the main story missions and instead interact with all the weird and strange NPCs you can happen upon. There's nothing quite so chill as a relaxing platformer when you're just trying to smoke some grass. Now, I already know what you're gonna say. Andy, these games are made for actual infants. You can't die in these games, so what's the point? And to you people, I say, sorry for my bluntness, but that's just how I roll. Okay, so yes, these games aren't necessarily challenging, but good lord, are they pretty to look at. And honestly, sometimes that's all you need. When you're baked out of your mind, I would say the less challenge the better. And everyone knows that the true challenge comes from collecting all the little sparkly bits, which is plenty for my dopey brain. If you're looking to just chill out and have some nice eye candy to look at, these two games fit that to a T. I will say it is unfortunate that later entries get a little too babyish, even for me. And like I said before, if you're just trying to look at some pretty colors when you're completely flavor blasted, these two games are great for that. I could honestly do a separate video on the amount of indie games that pair great with Reefer, but here are just a few honorable mentions. One of which I want to call special attention to is Valhalla. No, not that one. Not that one either. There we go. I knew I was in for a unique experience when the game pulls this message out. If you've never heard of it, it's a text-based game where you work as a bartender and listen to people's stories. And sometimes if you're not careful, you can get them drunk and cause them to overshare. What's also pretty cool is that you can affect the story and get different endings based on how well you make drinks. And I'll be honest, at first I didn't think I was gonna like a text-heavy game like this one. But eventually I grew to love the neon atmosphere and the colorful characters that you meet on your bartending journey. Again, this is a great indie title if you want as little player interaction as possible when you're completely stoned. These two titles go with pretty much everything I said with Red Dead 2. They're open world games where you don't have to focus on the story aspect. I also just want to highlight the fact that these games really allow you to interact with the open world. For example, I think when everyone first found out you could burn everything, they were like, along with the fact that there is just so much to explore here. Whether it's finding a Korok poop, or discovering a new cave. Also, if you're not great with combat encounters when you're completely fried, it's pretty easy to avoid the majority of battles in this game. In Tears of the Kingdom, you can even spend hours building random vehicles and devices to mess around with. Maybe even some torture devices if that's your cup of tea. We're not gonna kink shame here. Alright people, I can't tell you how much I love Persona 5 and why it pairs so well with some skunky broccoli. First off, have you seen the UI in this game? It's gorgeous. It honestly feels like this game was made for stoners with the aesthetic alone. I remember when I first played this, my high dopey brain sat in the pause menu for a solid 20 minutes, just looking at all the animations that were created for the options that you can go through and select. I also think it helps that Persona isn't the most challenging game out there. Sure, later parts do get pretty rough at times, but for the most part, you're just using the X button to select your actions. You've also got that open world aspect that I mentioned in the previous games, where you can explore and get lost in the city of Tokyo. This game can also get pretty text heavy, similar to Valhalla, where you can just sit back and watch the character interactions with not much input from yourself. I also just want to mention that me personally, I've never been a huge fan of turn-based combat, especially because of the fact that it can get very repetitive when you have to sink 60 to 100 hours into these types of games, but Persona 5 is just built different. It's also just crazy to me that I've sunk roughly 300 hours into both base Persona 5 and Royale, and I still never get bored when I'm fighting these big PP demons. Overall, I think weed in video games is a healthy combination that just gives us a few hours to escape the hell that sometimes can be our planet. Before the cops break down my door, I'm in no way saying that it's healthy to smoke weed every time you want to play video games. Any substance that's done without moderation can, and will, turn you into a gremlin. Again, I really just wanted to highlight the experiences you can have when you mix these two substances. As marijuana becomes more prevalent in the world, I think we're going to see more games aimed at this demographic. And then before I go, I just wanted to say, if you guys have had any similar experiences, or different ones for that matter, with weed and video games, I'd love to see that in the comments section. But other than that, thanks for watching, and until next time.